There are things in this world that defy explanation, stories dismissed as myths until people come face to face with them. The Wendigo of North America, Japan's Kuchisake-onna, the Skinwalkers of Navajo legend, all whispered tales until encounters prove otherwise. Sometimes, the things we fear the most are very real. There's something about long, empty roads at night that makes you feel like you're being watched. The kind of roads where you don't see another car for miles, where the trees lining the highway look like they're hiding something just out of sight. I never used to believe in the paranormal, but after what happened to me one night on an isolated stretch of highway, I don't think I'll ever drive alone at night again. I was 24 when it happened. I had just started a new job that required a lot of travel, which meant long hours on the road by myself. I didn't mind it at first. It gave me time to think, to listen to music, and enjoy the quiet. That night, I was driving through the back roads of West Virginia, heading toward a small town I had never heard of before. My GPS had rerouted me after an accident closed off the main highway, leading me onto a 2-lane road surrounded by nothing but thick trees and fog. It was around 1 a.m., and the road felt endless. No streetlights, no signs, just the occasional old barn or abandoned-looking house set back in the woods. My gas tank was half full, and my phone had no signal. That's when I saw him. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A figure standing on the side of the road, barely visible through the fog. As I got closer, my headlight swept over him. He was tall and thin, wearing a long dark coat that hung loose over his frame. His head was tilted slightly, and his face, at least what I could see of it, was pale, almost grayish. He wasn't hitchhiking. He wasn't walking. He was just standing there, completely still, staring at me as I drove past. A cold chill ran through me, but I tried to shake it off. Maybe he was just some lost traveler or a drifter. It wasn't that weird, until I saw him again. Less than 10 minutes later, another figure appeared at the edge of the road. I slammed the brakes. My stomach twisted. It was him. Same coat, same unnaturally pale skin, same tilted head. I had just passed him. How could he be here again? I tried to tell myself it was just someone who looked similar. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I kept driving, faster this time, my knuckles white as I gripped the steering wheel. I kept my eyes on the road, refusing to look in the rearview mirror. But then, not even 5 minutes later, there he was again, standing closer to the road now, as if he had moved slightly forward. This time, I saw his face more clearly. His eyes were too dark, almost like holes. His mouth, it was slightly open, but not in a normal way. It was unnatural, forced, like a puppet's mouth being held ajar by invisible strings. I sped up. By now I was breathing hard, my mind racing with explanations. Maybe there were multiple people dressed the same way. Some kind of prank? Or maybe it was the same man. The fog was thicker now, clinging to the road in swirling patches. My headlights barely cut through it. I told myself I just needed to get to the next town. Somewhere with lights, people, anyone. That's when my headlights flickered. Just for a second. And then I saw him again, standing in the middle of the road. I swerved so hard my tires screamed against the pavement. The car spun out of control, veering toward the trees. My heart slammed against my ribs as I fought to regain control, jerking the wheel. By some miracle, I stopped just inches from a ditch. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely breathe. And then, through the windshield, I saw him, standing on the other side of the road, closer now, waiting. His mouth was stretched wider this time, and I swear I saw something moving inside. I didn't wait. I threw the car into drive and took off. I don't know how long I drove. My mind was in a haze of panic and adrenaline. Every shadow looked like it was watching me. Every turn felt like he was waiting around the corner. And then finally, I saw lights ahead. A small gas station, the only one I had seen for miles. I pulled in so fast my tires skidded on the wet pavement. The clerk inside was an older man, sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper. He barely looked up as I stumbled inside, shaking and pale. "You all right, son?" he muttered, finally noticing my state. I hesitated. Would he even believe me? But I had to ask. "That man," I said breathlessly. "The one standing by the road? Have you seen him before?" The old man's face changed. His expression darkened. Slowly, he folded the newspaper, setting it down with an unsettling calmness. "You saw him," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard. I don't know who he is, but he kept showing up, no matter how fast I drove." The old man let out a slow breath. "Son, you need to count yourself lucky." I felt my stomach drop. "Lucky?" I repeated. The old man leaned forward, his voice so low I could barely hear it. "Because you got away." I never took that road again. I don't know what I saw that night, or how he kept appearing ahead of me. But I know one thing for sure. When I finally got home, I did something I never used to do. I checked my back seat, and even though it was empty, I swear I could still feel someone watching me. Hotels are meant to be safe places, temporary sanctuaries for travelers passing through unfamiliar towns. They all have the same sterile hallways, the same generic artwork hanging on the walls, the same dimly lit lobbies that hum with quiet unease after midnight. But what if you check into a room that was never meant for you? I learned that some rooms should never be entered. It happened a few years ago, during a work trip to Nevada. I was driving through the state, heading toward a conference that my boss had insisted I attend. After nearly 10 hours on the road, I could barely keep my eyes open. I stopped at the first motel I could find, a rundown 3-story building with flickering neon lights that buzzed like dying insects. The guy at the front desk barely looked at me as he handed over the key, muttering something about my room being at the end of the hall on the 3rd floor. I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep. The hallway smelled musty, like old carpet and stale air. The light fixtures flickered, casting long shadows that stretched along the walls. My room was 3C. When I slid the key into the lock, I felt a strange resistance, like the door didn't want to open. But after a second try, it clicked, and I stepped inside. The room was normal enough. A small bed, a desk, a bathroom with a broken fan humming weakly overhead. But the moment I closed the door behind me, something felt wrong. It was subtle at first, a feeling in the back of my mind, like I was being watched. The air in the room was stale, almost too still, like no one had stayed there in years. That was when I saw it. There was a chair in the corner of the room, and someone was sitting in it. I jumped back, my heart slamming into my ribs, but the moment I blinked, it was gone. The chair was empty. I told myself I was just exhausted, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the room wasn't empty. I decided to shower and shake off the weird feeling. The bathroom was tiny, the mirror scratched and fogged at the edges. As I turned on the water, I heard something shift behind me. A faint, almost imperceptible creak. I turned back toward the main room, peeking through the open door. The chair had moved. It was closer to the bed now. I stood there, dripping water onto the floor, staring at it. My breath came in shallow gasps. Had I moved it? I couldn't remember. I shut the bathroom door, locked it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard faint shuffling sounds, like someone moving slowly around the room. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up freezing. The window was open. I knew for a fact that I hadn't touched it. And then I heard it. The sound of breathing. Not mine. Something else. Right. Next to the bed. I didn't move. I could feel the weight of something standing over me, its presence thick in the air. I forced myself to open my eyes, expecting to see someone standing there. But the room was empty. The chair was back in the corner. But now, it was facing the bed. That was enough for me. I grabbed my bag and rushed for the door. But when I went to unlock it, it wouldn't budge. The knob wouldn't turn. I twisted it harder, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then I heard it. A whisper, right against my ear. "Stay!" I kicked the door and scrambled backward, my heart racing. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, scanning the room. Nothing. But then, my eyes landed on the mirror, and I saw it. A figure standing behind me. It was tall, unnaturally thin, its limbs too long. Its head was tilted at an unnatural angle, and its eyes were completely black. Its mouth hung slightly open, revealing something shifting inside. It raised one bony hand and placed it on my shoulder. Except, I didn't feel anything. That's when I realized. The reflection was moving on its own. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The room was silent again. The chair, gone. The bathroom door was wide open, steam still curling from the shower. I grabbed my bag and threw myself at the door again, rattling the handle until it finally gave way. I stumbled into the hallway, my breath coming in sharp gasps. The air outside the room felt lighter, as if I had just stepped out of a vacuum. I didn't look back. I ran straight to the front desk. The clerk barely reacted as I rushed up to the counter. I need a different room," I stammered. "Something's wrong with 3C. The man's face dropped. His eyes flickered with something I couldn't place. Recognition. Then after a long pause, he said, "Sir, we don't have a 3C. I stared at him, my mind struggling to process his words. "What?" I breathed. He turned the screen toward me, showing the list of occupied rooms. Room 3C wasn't on it. It wasn't registered. It didn't exist. I left that night, checking into a different motel an hour away. I never found out what happened in that room, or why it appeared in a hotel that didn't have a third-floor corner room. But when I got home, I checked my phone. I had taken a photo of the room when I first entered, just to remember the room number. And in the reflection of the bathroom mirror, behind me, was the chair. And in the chair was a figure, sitting. I grew up in rural Indiana, surrounded by endless cornfields that stretched beyond the horizon. Our house sat on a couple of acres, with miles of open farmland between us and the nearest neighbor. It was quiet, almost eerily so at times. The kind of quiet that made you feel like you were the last person left on Earth. But that all changed the night I saw it. It was late August, just after my 16th birthday. The nights were still warm, but the air smelled different, like summer was fading away. My parents had gone to bed hours ago, but I was still up watching movies in my room. Sometime past midnight, I heard Jasper barking outside. At first, I ignored it. We lived in the middle of nowhere, and Jasper barked at all kinds of things. Raccoons, coyotes, even deer wandering too close to the yard. But tonight was different. His bark was frantic, aggressive, almost desperate. I sat up in bed, my stomach twisting. Jasper was a big dog, strong and fearless. But now, he sounded like he was scared. And then beneath his barking, I heard something else. A low, wet breathing. Not from Jasper, from the cornfield. I crept to the window and pulled back the curtain. Jasper stood near the edge of the field, his body rigid, fur bristling. His teeth were bared, his tail stiff as he snapped at something just beyond the first row of corn stalks. I grabbed my flashlight from my nightstand and headed outside, stepping barefoot onto the cool dirt. As I approached Jasper, I noticed something off about the cornfield. The stalks were moving, not swaying in the wind. There was no wind. They were parting, like something was walking through them. Something big. I shined my flashlight toward the noise. That's when I saw it. Two massive reflective yellow eyes stared back at me from the darkness. They were too high up, at least 7 feet off the ground. A strange, wet clicking noise filled the air, like someone sucking their teeth. Then it moved. The cornstalks shifted violently as something stepped out. I only saw it for a second, but that was enough. It was tall, thin, its limbs too long for its body. The skin, grayish, stretched too tight over its bones, looked like leather left out in the sun for too long. And its mouth. God, its mouth. It stretched too wide, filled with rows of jagged, uneven teeth. It took one jerky step toward me, and Jasper lunged. Jasper snapped at its leg, teeth sinking into its flesh. The thing shrieked, a sound so high-pitched I felt it vibrate in my bones. I stumbled backward, my chest tight with fear. Jasper bit down harder, growling as he tried to drag it down, but the thing barely reacted. Instead, it twisted, its head toward me, its neck bending at an unnatural angle. Its mouth opened wider, stretching down toward its chest. I saw something move inside its throat. Then, with an inhuman speed, it reached down, grabbing Jasper by the back of his neck. Jasper yelped, struggling, paws scraping against the dirt. "Jasper!" I shouted, my voice cracking. Then, in a blur of gray flesh and teeth, it yanked him into the cornfield. I ran inside, slamming the door shut behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the lock. I stood there, heart pounding, listening. The night had gone completely silent. No barking, no breathing, just the wind rustling through the corn stalks. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, gripping the flashlight, waiting for Jasper to come back. He never did. The next morning, I told my dad everything. I expected him to laugh it off, say it was just a coyote or a bear. Instead, he went pale. Without a word, he grabbed his shotgun and told me to stay inside. When he came back, his face was ashen. He didn't say much, just told me to stay out of the cornfield from now on. But later that night, when he thought I was asleep, I heard him talking to my mom in the kitchen. I crept closer, heart hammering. "I saw the tracks," he whispered. "They weren't Jasper's, and they sure as hell weren't from a coyote." My mom murmured something I couldn't hear. Then my dad said something I'll never forget. "The old folks were right," he muttered. "There's something wrong with these fields." A few weeks later, my dad hired a crew to burn the cornfield down. He told the neighbors it was because of pests, but I knew better. The night before the fire, I swore I heard something breathing outside my window. Deep, wet breaths, followed by that same clicking noise. I didn't look. I couldn't, but I felt it watching me. We planted grass over the field and never grew corn again. and for a while things felt normal. But sometimes, on those late summer nights, I still hear it. That shriek echoing from the distance. And I know it's still out there, waiting.